Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, breakup coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hello, my beautiful Bravehearts. How is everyone doing? I have the most wonderful Braveheart, a fellow Braveheart of yours, who has gone through the Get Over Your Ex program. Her name is Robyn. And I just want to start out by saying one of my favorite things about Robyn was once she got into the Get Over Your Ex program, she just got into it. She just dove into the material. She dove into asking for coaching. It's a really intimidating thing if you've never been coached before to just dive in and get coached live in front of other people. You don't actually see the other people, but it can be a little intimidating if you don't know what to expect. And she just dove in and it was amazing. And if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that one of the biggest components to getting over your ex is reducing desire. And Robyn had some really huge, beautiful epiphanies when it came to reducing desire. And I'm going to save that so that she can talk about them. But they were probably some of my favorite that are like glaringly obvious, but aren't spoken about enough. And so when she said it out loud and I don't think you said it out loud. You wrote it down in the Braveheart community. And when I read it, I was like, this is gold. The rest of the world needs to hear this. So I wanted to have Robyn on to share her journey, to share her experience, and to help all of you who might still be struggling with heartbreak, with her insights and her journey. So Robyn, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it. Why don't you go ahead and we'll just start out with you telling us about you, where you're from, what you're about, and tell us a little bit about your breakup journey and what led you to enrolling inside of the program.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. So my name is Robyn. I'm 35. I live in Quebec, Canada. I'm about 20 minutes from the Vermont border. So I'm used to crossing into the United States quite often pre-COVID. I have 3 young children, almost 2, 3, and 5 years old. I was in a relationship for almost 8 years with the father of my children, and we broke up last October. So that is my breakup story. Started October. My ex stated he no longer wanted to be with me. And we had just bought a house, just moved into the house. And I agreed with the decision when he said it. I knew that this was something that had been coming for a while. And I agreed with the decision. A couple weeks after, I found out that he had a girlfriend. And I just spiraled and I could not seem to get back on my feet. I could not seem to wrap my head around this idea that he had moved on, that he had replaced me, that I made it mean so many things about me. And that's when I started looking online for some other resource to figure out, what do I do with all of these emotions and what do I do with all of this pain? And I found your podcast. And I started binge listening, if that's a word. I listened for hours. I listened in the car. I listened walking. I would listen, come home, take notes. It was like I was in school. I couldn't get enough of it. And I actually wrote you, Dorothy, about my situation. And I said, is this too much? Like, is this too complicated? Or have you seen this before? And you wrote back, you were wonderful. You said, oh my God, no, it's not too much. And we can definitely tackle this and work on it. And I signed up for the program right after.
I love that. It is not too complicated.
No.
I am so glad you asked that question. You remembered talking about that, because I think there's a lot of people who resonate with that. It feels complicated. It feels like there's multiple layers. It feels like there's so much going on. And that can be really, really difficult. And I think too, there's a layer, I mean, we'll talk about this later, but children, you were talking about that. There's so many components to it that sometimes it feels like, oh my gosh, this works for everyone else, but will it work for me? Right?
Exactly. How do I separate from this person when they are still going to be a part of my life for a very long time?
Yeah.
And working through
what would
that
you
layer.
tell, actually, and what would you tell someone who feels like their situation's too complicated?
It's not.
Mm.
It is not. If I can do it, anyone can do it. And
Mm.
if you just need to trust yourself and trust the process.
Mhm.
Get the help. So sign up for a coach. Get a coach. Get resources. I surrounded myself with as many resources as I could get my hands on, and that's
Beautiful.
what helped me move through this.
I love that you were like, I was listening to your podcast and it was like I was in school.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So good.
I had never heard anything like this before. It made so much sense. And I was like, why is no one talking about this?
Right? That's why I'm like
Yep.
trying to scream it from the rooftops. I'm like,
Yep.
everyone needs to know. I
Yep.
realized I had this epiphany. I don't know if I've told you this or shared this with you, Robyn, but the closer and closer I'm getting to getting pregnant, the closer and the more and more I'm thinking about like when when Marilyn goes through her very first heartbreak. So might be like, 17, 18 years from now, probably sooner, but you never know. So I'm like, I want this, the way that we did your healing journey. I want that to be like the default. I want that to be like what everyone does and everyone knows about it. And it's a thing. And we know how to heal heartbreak differently.
Yes. Yes. I can't wait to pass these tools on to my kids and anybody. But
right? Anyone who will listen.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Anyone who's ready for it.
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about desire and attachment because you made such huge progress around the desire and the attachment piece so quickly in the program. And so for anyone who's new, I just want to mention that I talk about treating the root cause of your heartbreak. And the root cause of your heartbreak is the desire that you have for this person, as well as the attachment that that person has with your future, meaning my future is no longer a viable option without this human being. And so in the program, we do like a beginning check-in, a midpoint check-in, and a final check-in. And you get to move through these pieces as slow or as fast as you want to, but obviously we do it within 3 months or less. And you had such huge epiphanies around your desire and you reduced it very quickly, very early on. So I can say them, but I kind of want you to say that. There was 2 of them that I really love that I want you to share with everyone. Can you kind of walk us through the process of how you reduced your desire and attachment and where you like ended?
So I started in the program. I wrote down that I was at a 4 out of 10 on both of those.
Yep.
Had I actually had a number for when I first started your podcast, it probably would have been between like an 8 and a 10.
Yes.
So,
okay, that's really interesting. Tell me why you still decided to join the program when your desire and your attachment was already pretty reduced.
basically, I did not want to be with this person and I knew that, but I still had all these feelings and emotions and I wanted to understand why. And I really, really wanted to do this properly. I didn't want to be doing this again and repeating this in another relationship. And I was really determined to get a different result in my life.
I love that. Amazing. Okay. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was just really curious.
So it's okay.
Okay. So you were at a 4 in the beginning for both of those things. And then what happened?
So one of I guess they go hand in hand. So the big aha epiphany moment for me was when I stopped focusing so much on my past relationship and what had gone wrong and what I could have done and all the negative from that, and started looking at what I could now go and get for myself in the future. I realized that I could now pick somebody that wanted to get married, because I had always wanted to get married. And with this whole separation and breakup, that wasn't even an option for me. And I had completely forgot about that. That was pushed down so far. And I had this huge aha moment of, wow, I can pick an amazing partner for myself, someone who meets what I want, who matches me so much better. And this person can also be an amazing stepfather for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I might not have had the partner I wanted as a father for my children, and that family unit wouldn't look the same, I could pick someone so amazing that would show them everything that I wanted them to see.
Yes. I love that. Those were two, like reading those. I wish you would have seen me in my office when I read those. I was like, what the fuck? Why have we not said this before? Sorry about my language. Hope no one has kids
Oh,
listening.
that's good.
But I'm like, wow, that's so wild. I can finally get married because I'm assuming, and I totally resonate with this. When you get into a relationship, it's so easy to compromise, or and especially because we're taught and trained to compromise our wants, which I'm not super for. We talk about all of that inside of the program, but we so easily compromise and we're like, okay, well, that's something that I can go without. That you forget once you're out of the relationship, you're like, oh my God, I can actually go after the things that I wanted in the first place that I thought just weren't an option for me.
Absolutely.
How were you
Absolutely.
reminded of that? Like, how did you think of that?
I was actually having a conversation with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
a man, and he said, yeah, I want to get married. I want to do this. And he was naming these things. And I just went, what? Like, what? Oh my God, that's true. I want that too. That's actually where it came from. And realizing that there are a lot of different options out there, and you really just have to pick what works for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Changing your minding, and instead of saying, oh my God, there's nobody better than my ex, going like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there are, and you will pick one and you will choose
Yes.
one. They don't fall from the sky. You choose them.
Oh, I love you for saying that because that was one other thing that I had written down here is it's like oftentimes we think there's no one better than our ex. Like we're not gonna, that was the best that I could do. There's not gonna be anyone better. But you're saying like you have control over the person you choose to be with. So it's not like it just you happen to be in a relationship and that relationship you happen to be in is worse than the other person that you were dating. But we get to actively choose someone better.
Exactly. And you explained it really well with your want list. And
Mm-hmm.
I go through and write out, what do you want? What are your non-negotiables? And find somebody that already has those. It's so much easier than trying to compromise all the time and the other person is compromising. You just both
Mm-hmm.
show up very authentic, and it's much easier.
Oh, it's so much more fluid and you
Yeah.
both get to like show up from an optimum place and like from a very authentic place
Mm-hmm.
versus I feel like when you guys get stuck, or myself included, when we get stuck in these compromise loops, it's like if I compromise, then that means you have to compromise. And then you start having arguments about I compromise this, so why didn't you compromise that? And like vice
Mm-hmm.
versa. And it's like, why are we compromising so much? Why don't we just go after the things that we love and we enjoy and we choose a partner who loves and enjoys those things as well?
Yeah, exactly. Especially on the important things. We're not talking
Yeah.
about like, where are we going to eat for supper? Like,
Right.
okay, we can compromise, but big decisions, like, yeah,
Yeah, right.
find someone that
Especially
matches
like
you.
getting married and being a parent and all of that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Holidays with kids, without kids, is
Mm,
all different layers to that.
so good. So yummy. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so in your final check-in, we talk about emotions. And I love that in your final check-in, you said that the emotions you were feeling on a consistent basis were content, calm, and proud. So I
Mm-hmm.
want to talk about where you started and how did you get to consistently experiencing those emotions on a very regular basis? Because I know there are many Bravehearts out there who wish they were feeling like content, calm, and proud. And what advice kind of would you give them if you could walk them through your process?
So my process was, uh, as you said in the beginning, I dove all in. I asked for help. I asked for coaching, and I just knew, like I said, I knew I wanted a different result. So I needed to do something differently. So I really worked through all of the workbooks, listened to the videos. When I started, I was very angry, very resentful, and sad. Those were my three emotions that I was feeling most of the time. And learning how to process my emotions and feelings and manage my thoughts better allowed me to come to this place of calm. It's which equates to me as happy. For me, like happiness is just a calm, because I was used to feeling like I was in a whirlwind or I was in this storm. And now I'm like, no, I am the calm. Even if there is a storm around me, I can create that calm and I hold on to that calm. And it's the most amazing feeling to know that I create that. And no matter what happens or who comes and goes, that feeling won't leave because I'm the one creating it.
Oh, beautiful. I'm the calm in the chaos almost.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So, for other Bravehearts who are going through it, stick with it. Stick with it. It's not linear. You may have an amazing day. You may have an amazing half a day. And then that evening, you're completely falling apart. That's all part of it. It doesn't mean that every day is super happy all day. But it means that overall you are empowered, you are in control of your life and how you're feeling about it.
I love it. So tell me a little bit about what are some of, speaking of like thoughts are creating your feelings and you're in control of it. Can you tell us what were some of like the thought patterns that were creating the angry and the resentful and the sad? And then what are some of the thought patterns that you have now that are creating the content, calm, and proud?
Yeah. So there was anger directed at my ex. Like, this is wrong. The way he broke up was wrong. Him having another girlfriend is wrong. Things that happened after the breakup with him, his girlfriend, the children. There was a lot of me judging, a lot of me feeling that what he was doing was wrong. It wasn't fair. I didn't deserve this. I deserved better. Resentful that I had stayed with this person for a very long time and gave what I felt was a lot of myself. And then I kind of felt like I was left as this shell of a person. And I did a lot of work around that. And now my new thoughts that help me a lot is he is entitled to his life and his choices and his decisions. He is not more happy or less happy today than he was 5-6 months ago. He still has positive and negative emotions, and they have nothing to do with me. Just like my emotions today have nothing to do with him. And if he goes on and is happier, a thought that helps me as a mother is that great, my children's father is happier and he'll show up better for them.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Yeah, I think a lot of us get stuck. I mean, I did, obviously. Anyone who's listened to the podcast long enough knows, like, I was like, what the
Mm-hmm.
what he did moving on so quickly was totally the wrong thing, totally
Yeah.
not cool. But who are we to say what's right and what's wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Especially and now that I can see everything so clearly, years afterwards, but it's like him moving on had to happen. And him moving on quickly had to happen to propel me into this. I just cannot even fathom my life without my business anymore. I really cannot. And I wouldn't have
Absolutely.
created the business without having this traumatic breakup. Just blows my mind. So how did you, tell me a little bit more, because I think people could be like, oh yes, Dorothy, that makes sense for you, blah, 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 blah. But what about me? How did you overcome the right and wrong and like what he did was wrong? Like, what does that look like for you? Do you know?
Well, is it right? Well, first of all, as you say, who am I to say what's right and wrong? The way he processes his emotions, he has every right to do. So whatever he's doing with his situation is completely independent of me, has nothing to do with me. And as I look back, I can be really grateful that it happened that way. Actually, it did happen the way it needed to happen. If I hadn't been so devastated by that breakup, I would have never found you. I would have never been on the internet looking at how do I get over my ex. I would have never signed up for this program. I would have never discovered life coaching, which I am insanely passionate about.
Mhm.
And so yeah, like my next steps in rebuilding my life and really stopping and going, okay, Robyn, who are you and who do you want to be? I want to be a life coach, and I'm signed up. I'm starting April 25th.
Yes, girl.
Yeah, like that. Yes, did it hurt? Yeah. Did it suck? Yeah. But if it hadn't happened like that, if he had not moved on so quickly and I hadn't felt all of those feelings and brought up all of those insecurities in myself that I then tackled, I wouldn't be here today.
Yeah. It's really like deciding to believe, like really truly going all in on the belief of it's always happening for me, not to me. And it
Mm-hmm.
sounds so cliche when we first say it, but it's so real because the moment you go all in with that, you get to decide in the present moment, even though it's painful, even though it's sucky, there's a purpose to it. There's a rhyme and a reason to it, and we can't see it. And and that's okay. Because something bigger and better is on the other side of it every single time. Even for people who learn this work and don't go into life coaching, because not everyone's going to be like, oh my God, now I want to be a life coach. But even for people, I just think about the skill set that you're going to have that you pass on to your children, who are then going to pass it on to their children. We're literally building a new way of handling negative emotions, learning to not react, not resist, not avoid our emotions, but learning how to process them and sit with them, which is a huge skill to learn, which will also ripple into so many ways. We don't even know all the ways, but I'm sitting here thinking of some where it's like your next relationship will be different because you don't react to your emotions. You may not go through a divorce that in your next relationship because you're not bringing all the baggage from your last relationship in. It might change your career and the way that you function within your job. There's so many ways that this affects your life, learning how to live in emotional maturity, learning how to heal from heartbreak in a new way. And using a breakup really to be a transformation, to reinvent yourself into another human being, the version of yourself that you really want to be. And it's such a beautiful time to do that because you're so much in the depths of the pain that you really have like everything's already fallen away and you were rebuilding. So you might as well, like you were saying in the beginning, you might as well rebuild the way that you want to rebuild. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love that. So good. Okay, so let's talk about two other things. And you kind of mentioned one of these, but you had two goals for the program and you accomplished them. So let's talk about them. So the first one that you have already talked about is you want to have a 2 to 5 year plan. Obviously, probably a plan that's bigger and better than the one that you had with your ex.
Mm-hmm.
And you are going to be a life coach now. So can you tell us about the 2 to 5 year plan? How you like where did you start? Like when you started, did you just have zero idea of what you wanted in 2 to 5 years? And then now it's very clear, or tell us more about that.
I had no idea of what I was doing. I didn't know if I was keeping the house I'm in now, if I would sell, if I would move, if even in my career, I've known for a long time that I wasn't fulfilled in my career, that a move would probably be best for me, but to what extent, I didn't know. And actually that even evolved throughout the program. At one point, I was going to physically move, geographically move to transfer, but stay in the same job. And then when I started looking past 2 years to 5 years, I stopped and went, I'm going to have the exact same issues in a different location in 5 years. So I was like, okay, we're going to go bigger. And that's where the life coaching, because when I discovered this, it just resonated with me so deeply, but it felt so impossible. I did not think I could be a life coach.
Oh, it gives me chills. And thinking about that too, like how did we do an impossibility workshop inside of the Get Over Your Ex program? So did that help you with the life coach component?
It did. It did. And I, when you feel it in your bones, it scared the crap out of me. And I was like, yeah, that must be it then. That must be the right. It's so scary. That must be the right way
Yes, right?
almost.
It is
Yeah.
kind of scary. I will never forget. Like I can literally visualize where I was standing when I was on the phone with my dad, being like, Dad, I think I want to become a life coach. He's like, you're kidding, right? He's a psychologist. And he was like, you're going to have competition with the therapist, with the psychologist, with counselors, with the person you're getting your life coaching degree from. You have all of your master's student loans, your undergrad student loans. You're only 2 years into it was like 2 or 4 years into your actual, what you went to school for. What are you thinking? That's terrible. And I'm going to do it anyways, Dad. It's terrifying. And it goes against, I think what's interesting too is I was at a retreat with a bunch of other coaches this past weekend, and it's everyone else has an opinion to say about it. And it's getting more and more well known. So it's a little bit more and more like, I think the opinion's different, or at least the people I'm hanging out with might be different. But um, it's really fascinating I just love life coaching so much. I'm so excited. Do you know are you going to niche in a specific thing, or are you going to be general life coaching, or do you know yet?
Uh, well, ideally, if we're dreaming big, yeah, it would be to be, it would probably be to be helping. I really like to helping women
Yeah.
as you're doing,
Mhm.
especially moms. It could be after breakups, separations. It could be something about
Yes.
rebuilding the life that as
Is
women, we sometimes lose ourselves in relationships. And
mm.
as mothers, we also sometimes lose
Oh,
ourselves.
that's a really good one. I think that's an amazing, well, probably because I am in it now, but I'm like, it would be really cool if you did one about like life coaching for moms who don't want to lose themselves in being a mom. That's
Yeah.
where I'm at. I'm like, oh my gosh, it takes so much from you. I'm like, I don't want to lose my core being because a lot of my energy and effort is going to be put towards a child. That's a really niche. But also,
Yeah.
I love coaching on breakups, and we don't have enough breakup coaching. So that's also an option.
Yes.
So fun. Okay. So let's talk about your other goal too. So the other one was to understand who you are as a woman and what you want in life. And so you said that you did that, and you're understanding and creating that, and you're consistently practicing showing up as her. So tell us kind of what that looked like when you started versus what it looks like now.
When I started, I felt like I did not know myself at all, that I was a stranger. I literally wrote down a list of the woman I wanted to be, a woman that I would aspire to be and look up to. I wrote down what she did, what she looked like, her activities, even. And I put feelings beside them. How does she feel doing certain things? And those were things I was aspiring to, and goals I was going towards. I started trying a whole bunch of activities I hadn't tried in a very long time, and just rediscovering who I am. What do I like? What am I about? And it's been a really difficult process, but it's been so rewarding.
I love that because we talk about recreating your identity. And I did a podcast with a girl named Patty, who is a fellow Braveheart. And she talks about how she had to really recreate herself. Like, who was she even without this other person in her life? And when you're in a relationship, I mean, this could happen for a relationship that wasn't super long, but I think about these long-term relationships that I've been in. It's really hard to not let the other person's opinions shape you. And then when those opinions are gone, you're like, do I still want to be this person? So interesting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Figuring out who you are, and you're having your own thoughts and standing behind them.
Yes. That's the important piece, is standing behind them. I love it. Amazing. Okay. So is there anything else that you would like to share with your Bravehearts who might be where you started?
The only thing I would add is give yourself if you can, give yourself the time and the space to do this work. So I gifted myself the days where I did not have my children. I was literally at another location by myself with nobody. Mm-hmm. And I found that so healing, just to be alone. Mm-hmm. It helped a lot.
I feel that inside my bones. That is so important. I actually cherish that. Like, I miss that about being single, is having so much alone time and space and breathing room. I like, now that I'm in a relationship, I'm like, I miss that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for those of you who are parents, we will be recording a podcast all about helping our children through this. And Robyn will be a guest on that as well in the future, sharing her viewpoints. So you can expect that in the future, or if you're listening to this later, it might already be available. But thank you so much, Robyn. I really, really appreciate you. I appreciate your time and sharing your journey with people so that they can benefit from hearing what you went through. Anything else that you want to include or share today?
No, good luck, everyone. You can do it. Just stick with it.
I love it. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
you.
All
right, my Bravehearts. I will talk to you next time. If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you want to learn how to get over your ex in 3 months or less to build a life better than the one you thought you had with your ex, I would like to personally invite you to my next group course, where we take everything you've learned here on the podcast and apply it to your life. Come check it out at www.lifecoachdorothy.com.